All right, everyone, welcome. We're ready to go. We're live streaming today, so welcome. It's good to see some faces, some new faces. We having some of our guests sit at the table across from us there. We'll be presenting later to you, but I guess the first order obviously is call the meeting to order, which we are. So I want to look at adopting the agenda. Can I have a motion on that, please?
Second.
Second. All right, you got those? All right, all in favor? Unanimous all the way around. Thank you. All right, public comment period today. I didn't get to check in with you on that. Do we have one?
One public comment.
Okay. All right, is this person here? Sam, is it Grunman? That person here? Oh, there you are. Thank you. You may have the microphone. You got 3 minutes.
What? You can use the mouse or the keyboard to go through. Perfect. Yeah, so I want to address.
We need to get that mic up there. Where's the mic? There we go. You need to get real close to it.
Hi, I want to address NCDOT primarily with my comments today. First of all, back in January 2020, my wife and I were driving on I-4 through Orlando when they were doing road construction to widen it. And it seemed like every 20 feet, they were moving traffic from the far left side to the far right side. It was horrible driving back and forth, back and forth. So I want to give a thanks to NCDOT for not doing that, for switching us over maybe every other mile. So thank you for that. My second comment is about pedestrian safety. So if you know the trolley problem in philosophy, you got a runaway trolley. It continues down the tracks, they'll run over 5 people, but you're standing next to a switch. Just put it on another track where it'll only run over 1 person. You're going to want to switch the track to have it, save more people. But it seems like NCDOT's policy is the opposite, where it's going down run over 1 person, but then they instead want to switch it over to run over 5 people. What I mean is when it comes to the signs along the roadways, they are breakaway. So if a car loses control, whether it's a bad driver speeding along the highway or they have a heart attack or something and they just lose control, they're going to go up onto the sidewalk, run over a pedestrian, keep going, run into a building. It's not until they hit a building that they stop. So I have some pictures to share. First off is the corner of South Boulevard and Tremont Avenue. You see in the picture on the left, they hit a utility pole and they had to put up another plank, another board to hold it up while they put in a new pole. And in the picture on the right, you can't see it, but it goes down a hill down to a seating area for the hub there. And there's actually been a car go down into that seating area before. But you notice the pole is still standing. But if you want to ask about some other things like here, this is a little pedestrian refuge island with a right turn there. This is at South Boulevard and Woodlawn Road. So a car coming down, it's going to hit, if it hits that pole holding the cross signals, that's a breakaway sign. The car's going to keep going and hit any pedestrian standing there. I would like to see that be an actual bollard that could stop a truck. So a truck hits it, going to do a lot, it's going to stop. The car is going to stop, not hurt any pedestrians standing there. But like I said, if it's right now it's breakaways, car hits it, it's going to keep going. And here's some pictures I've taken on the streetcar here on Trade Street. This is the Johnson & Wells stop. You can see the concrete there in the corner, in the bottom left, it's kind of breaking away. Looks like probably been hit by some cars. There are some bad drivers out there that hit things. And the breakaway railing there on the right, in the right picture, it's already bent. I think it's been hit before. There was an incident last year where the streetcar stop at Gateway Station got hit by a car. Middle of the night, probably speeding. hit the pedestrian, hit the railing, kept going, knocked out the benches too, and the shelter. So if there were pedestrians, people sitting there waiting for a train, they would have been hit. The picture on the left is South Tryon Street at West Kingston, South Tryon Street at West Kingston Avenue. A car hit that crosswalk signal. And now it's just sitting there blocking the sidewalk. The picture on the right, that is Tremont Avenue at Camden Road at Tremont Avenue. So the city put up no left turns. They used to have sign there in that island saying no left turns, but it keeps getting knocked over. Keeps, and that's an expense to keep replacing it. Or a bollard, just stop the car, hurt the car, make the driver pay, but the sign could still be there. Less expense on us. Next, I have a little GIF I could share. I don't know where this was, but yeah, you see it. That bollards stopped that truck from hitting that building. We'll get it from the beginning, maybe. You see, it goes through a street sign first, boom, and so imagine if that were a bollard to have stopped the cars much, much sooner.
Okay.
So that's my comments for you. Thank
All right,
you.
we appreciate that. No, that's pretty revealing, isn't it?
Yes.
Very
thank
much
you.
so. We'll have all these all over the place and we'll see what happens. Appreciate the comment, Sam. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll flip it over to Mr. Burke real quick here to talk about ethics.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflict of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any of the matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
All right, no conflicts noted anywhere. Lucky us for doing that, so I appreciate that. Move down to the consent agenda. So if everybody's good with the consent agenda, unless there wasn't any comments on the adoption of the agenda, so I'm looking for a motion on the consent
Move to
agenda.
approve the consent agenda.
And second over there by Craig. So all in favor? No-
Aye.
No opposed. All right, unanimous. All right, Mr. Curtis, it's your turn. We have 2055 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Make good use of that microphone.
I'll try. Good evening. Now we do want to bring our 2055 MTP socioeconomic projections to you this evening. This came to you as an informational item last month. Bob presented to you. Bob, thank you for stepping in last month. At that time, we did not have actual projections to share with you, not draft projections, but the intent was to share a bit about the process, what those projections actually are and how they're used in our processes. We do have projections this evening, so we are going to ask for action on that. And the request this evening is that you adopt the draft county level household and employment projections for the 2055 MTPs for horizon years of 2025, 2035, 45, and 55. This is some of the same information that you've seen before, but it is worth going over again very briefly. These county level projections will not impact funding levels or funding distribution for your projects. They will not affect your local estimates of population or employment, and they will not affect local or county planning efforts. Some quick definitions for you. Household projections are the expected household totals for each county in 25, 35, 45, and 55. Employment projections are very similar. Projections for employment for 25 through 55. These horizon years are 10-year subsets of our MTP's overall 2055 horizon year. The Metrolina Regional Travel Demand Model, or MRM, is the tool we use to predict impacts of growth on transportation systems, our system. And the Metrolina Community Biz Model, MCM, is the GIS-based land use tool that we use to determine location and intensity of growth. Why is this important? This is the first step in the preparation of our 2055 MTP. These projections are direct inputs into the MCM and MRM model processes. This does allow CRTPO and our partners to better predict future travel demand, and I'll talk a bit more about those partners in just a second. The results ideally are improved decision-making and priority setting for all of us. And we do reassess these projections every 4 to 5 years to coincide with the new MTP development. I mentioned partners a second ago. It's important to stress that this work is done in coordination with our Metro regional MPO partners. That includes the Greater Hickory MPO. They've got a little sliver there on the northwest corner of Lake Norman. Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO, Cabarrus Rowan MPO, RFAT's the Rock Hill Fort Mill area MPO in South Carolina, and then our Rocky River RPO, which covers Union, Anson, and the county there to the east. How are these projections developed? We did use a regional economic development consultant. That company's name was Fourth Economy. They lended their expertise to this process. This was led again by our travel demand model staff, who contracted with that consultant. We did also use Bureau of Economic Analysis data, county and local building permits, and certificates of occupancy, geographically located employment data, of course, census estimates coming out of 2020 here recently. Use local staff research, our own Metro regional travel demand model, and outputs from the North Carolina statewide transportation model. Very briefly, that process, I mentioned these are inputs to the MTP process. These projections or control totals, as we kind of refer to them, are fed into the community viz land use model. Those outputs go into the travel demand model, and then that model is used to evaluate our fiscally constrained project list that comes out of our MTP process. And now to the meat. These are our county level projections, our draft projections. We did include these in a memo that this body requested to see coming out of our TCC process last month. So you should have received that in a separate memorandum earlier this month, and you also have those in your agenda this evening. So I'll pause there for a minute, let you kind of digest these and see if you have any quick questions about this process.
Mr. Craig.
I do.
Yes.
My question is, actually has to do with your very first slide, or perhaps it was the second slide. When you said that you gotta go quite a ways back. Will not impact funding levels, population or local estimates, and will not impact planning efforts. You're gonna show, you just showed us increases in population. That's gonna impact. Everything you're gonna show us is gonna impact. So I got stuck when I read will not impact. Would you explain how it's not gonna impact if we're gonna grow, we're gonna have more jobs, more people, more need for roads? How can it not impact?
That's a good question. The intent of this process is more of a top-down process. It's not kind of the ground-up process that we typically use with most of our planning efforts, where we rely on your staff really to develop population estimates, not so much employment, but population, land use planning, transportation planning. Those are fed up to us typically. This process is more of a top-down. Let's look at generally what population do we anticipate, and in this case, the consultant who kind of again lend their expertise to this, do they anticipate seeing, and it informs the travel demand model, community viz model, and then the travel demand model. It's used to evaluate projects, but the intent is not to do the local planning that you do through this, again, top-down process. So this is not meant to replace any of your planning efforts, not to replace any of your projects. It can inform if you choose to use it. We have several municipalities that will use some of this community viz data that relies on this. They will use that for some of their planning, but they do not rely on it. We do not dictate that to them. It's not part of the formal process that you and your staff use for planning. It is an informational source. Hopefully we hope that you will use it and reference it in some cases, but it's not meant to replace your local planning process.
That doesn't sound like that answered your question, so.
Maybe it's semantics, maybe it's because I'm going to a rank. I don't know. But I will demur and move on.
I said, Yes, it will not influence or should not influence your land use planning efforts. That's right. And as well as, it should not influence your project selection. That, the planning processes that you use to select projects and select roads are not intended to be impacted by this process, looking at control totals and future year projections.
All right, well, why don't we continue?
All right. Some key considerations and takeaways. Again, these projections are intended to be objective, research-based, and defensible. The intent is consistency. I mentioned, of course, our partners earlier that worked on this process with us. The intent is to be consistent across those partners geographically as well as time. We've used this process several iterations now, and we'll continue to use it into the future. Projections adopted in 2023. Again, incorporate projections from our travel demand model, NCDOT statewide model, regional economists, and several of the other sources I mentioned earlier. FHWA again has advised us to prioritize consistency in this process. Modeling local staff will reassess these projections every 4 to 5 years to coincide with our new MTP development. And TCC did unanimously recommend adoption by the board at their November 2nd meeting. So with that, I'll stop again and ask if you have any questions. And
All right, any questions for our presenter on this? I know it is confusing with all the data, but I'm not sure that it necessarily holds up anything as far as going forward. It's been reviewed. So does anybody here around the table have some more questions on it? And are you ready to make a decision on this tonight?
Move to adopt.
Okay. We'll make it that easy. So the action is requested for Mr. Curtis. So the motion is up to adopt, if you will. Do I have a second on that? John? Got that now? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
thank
A
you.
lot of work. So thank you, Curtis. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you to you and your staffs who helped us develop this information.
All right, next up, Jennifer Stafford, you're going to talk about the discretionary funds on the fall call. So welcome back. Make use of that microphone again so everybody can hear you.
Thank you and good evening. So Jennifer Stafford, I oversee the discretionary grants program, and today I just wanted to go over the summary of the fall call. We will request action in February, and you'll be seeing additional information at your next board meeting as well. So we opened a call for projects on August 14th and closed at the end of October. Staff is now scoring applications, and the project oversight committee will review them in December. And then in January, you'll see the recommended list along with the other projects as information. And then again, we'll request action in February. This year, we had 2 funding sources available, surface transportation block grant, which is our most flexible funds, typically can be used for highway and non-highway. And then we had some remaining carbon reduction funds that we didn't program last year, so $6.2 million. Overall, we had about $62.4 million available for programming. We received about $90.6 million of funding requests. And again, our target was 62.4 or so. So we received more applications than we have funding available, about $28 million worth. We received 33 applications, 3 for planning studies, for about 288,000, 3 for carbon reduction, 5.8 million. Again, we had the 2.6 available, or sorry, 6.2 available in carbon reduction funds, 9 new highway projects for $40 million, 9 new bikeway bike and ped projects for almost 17 million. And then we had some projects that were awarded a few years ago, but had shortfalls. So they are requesting supplemental funds. And we had 7 highway projects and 2 non-highway or bike ped projects. This is just a quick map to show you. We received applications from Statesville down into Union County. It's a very active fall call. Last year, we received about 34 applications. So this year with 33 is right in line. Here's the 9 new highway funding request projects. You can see some in Charlotte, Monroe, Mooresville, Troutman, Waxhaw, and Wesley Chapel. Again, the new projects are about 40 million. And here are the shortfall projects. I've been sort of waiting for this wave of shortfalls to come. With inflation, it really hit some of the projects hard, especially after they got through right away, getting ready to go into construction. So we have the 7 supplemental funding request here for about 25.5 million. So a total funding request for all highway projects at about 65.5 million. The air quality or carbon reduction fund request, we received 3, 1 from CATS for electric buses. The ITS is Intelligent Transportation Systems that helps coordinate the signals and that type of thing. Almost 4 million, and then some solar powered EV chargers from Indian Trail. So again, 5.8 million. And then new projects for basically bicycle and pedestrian, 9 projects: Charlotte, Davidson, Mint Hill, Huntersville, Mooresville, and Waxhaw for almost 17 million. And then 2 bicycle pedestrian projects needed a little bit supplemental funding to get them to finish out their project, 2 million there. So total funds request for all non-highway projects is almost 19 million. And then planning projects, again, there's your 288. We just received 3 of them. This is under the target amount of about 500,000. Very regional. All 3 of them are very regional and should be helpful. So just to, again, recap, we received 90 million. We have 62, or deficit about 28 million. We are reviewing the estimates. The amounts could change. Probably if it changes, it won't be much. We follow the policy. The policy says that the estimates need to be within 6 months. They need to be vetted or developed by a engineer, landscape architect, or somebody with the skill set to do so. The next step, CRTPO staff is scoring the project applications. There's 5 of us doing all of it. Will come together the end of November with a list of scores to the Project Oversight Committee. The Project Oversight Committee will meet in December. We'll meet in person, talk about the applications, the scores, the funding type, how we're going to apply the funds. And then we'll be back to you in January for information on this recommended list, and then again, action in February. Are there any questions at this time?
John?
This may be a really granular question, so I don't know if you know the answer, but the solar powered EV chargers for Indian Trail, would that require the person that uses them to pay a fee to use them? Do you know?
No. They'll be at public parks. There are 2 of them. They're very interesting looking. They're a panel with a solar panel up above, and then you drive into it. So it's a unit that weighs about 16,000 pounds, and they literally just drive into it, but it will be free. Thank you.
I'm probably not in the majority, but I just wonder why government is paying for free electricity for people to use. I mean, there's nobody that has free gasoline for my car. I don't go to a park and get to fill up for free. So I don't know why we would provide free electricity at the cost of 162,000 or whatever the cost was.
I believe it is. I will double check and confirm with you, but I believe that so some of that So I believe FHWA does allow some charge up to a certain amount on solar charging. I think it's up to the applicant or the town.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Michael.
Is the criteria and the waiting for that criteria for your scoring available online or someplace where
Yes, sir. It is on our website and it's under the discretionary grant program. And then there's a policy and I'm happy to email it to you or have Mr. Burke email it to you. Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
If you could do that and follow up
Sure.
on that as well. Anybody else around the room here? Got to look at my corners here. All right. All right. If you could, again, follow up on that, it'd be appreciated to get those guys the information. And this is something that isn't going to be looked at again until February. That's correct.
January.
January?
Yeah.
Action for us in February.
That's right.
Okay. All right, Jennifer, thank you very much. All right, next item, Mr. Cook, you're up.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Wanted to take this opportunity. We do this every year around this time to introduce the Unified Planning Work Program to everyone. We don't talk about this a lot, just a brief time period throughout the year. So we use the last meeting of the year to, again, introduce the topic to everyone. So what we'll do today is talk about what the Unified Planning Work Program is, talk about funding, different tasks that we anticipate, as well as different initiatives and issues we also anticipate, and then discuss some next steps. So as to what this document is, the Unified Planning Work Program, it's very simply, it's our budget. It's the budget we adopt annually. It identifies all the activities that we anticipate that will be necessary to implement the metropolitan planning process each year. And it documents how all the state and federal money allocated for transportation planning processes, how those funds are going to be used throughout the year as well. And we don't do this alone. We prepared in close cooperation with NCDOT and a host of partners that you see listed there. And some of the more crucial partners are with the Integrated Mobility Division at NCDOT, as well as the Transportation Planning Division. There are 8 categories, what we often call task codes that divide up the UPWP data and planning support. That's the travel demand modeling, a lot of activity, a lot of dollars associated with that. Traffic counts are programmed in that area. The planning process, this is a very broad category, kind of a catch-all kitchen sink category. Our metropolitan transportation plan activities are programmed there. Comprehensive transportation plan activities, and there's a host of the range of things that an MPO is involved with are categorized under planning process. Special studies, kind of an area where you put things that may not fit neatly in any other category. So you can see there are strategic plan, efforts associated with implementing Connect Beyond and Beyond 77. There's a category for this, for the Unified Planning Work Program. And then the tip development is in one category. Then there's civil rights compliance and other regulatory requirements. Public participation is a big element of that. And then the statewide and regional planning activity, that's where we coordinate with our neighboring MPOs, where we work at a state and national level with the North Carolina Association of MPOs, as well as the Association of MPOs at a national level. And then the last category there, management, operations, and program support. This is the activity where that any organization has to undertake to keep the lights on, to keep the operation running. So the support for this board, grants management, and just that overall administration that any organization has to undertake. As to funding, there are 3 primary sources. 2 are from the FHWA, Section 104F planning funds, or PL funds as we call them. Also from the FHWA, the STBG-DA that helps support what we do. And then lastly, from the Federal Transit Administration, Section 5303 funds help support transit planning activities for us and for our partners. As to local match, as most of you know, most federal funds require a local match, and these are no different. For the PL and the DA funds, that match is provided by all the member jurisdictions. It is divided on a per capita basis across all the cities and towns in our planning area. Any local planning projects, Jennifer mentioned 3 in her previous presentation. That is usually covered by the project sponsor. And then the section 5303 match is also provided by the user. And that match is a little bit different. It's an 80-10-10 match, 80% federal, 10% local, and then NCDOT picks up the remaining 10%. And then if there are any other funds being used for transportation planning purposes in the region, they also have to be programmed in the document, even if CRTPO itself is not the active participant in that process. So more specifically for funding for next fiscal year, we do have some data, some of it is incomplete at this point, but we do know that I'll direct your attention to the federal column there. We did receive information from NCDOT last week about the PL money. We have a bit less than we had last year, to the tune of $316,000 less. And that's due primarily, I think, to 2 reasons. There is some volatility associated with that funding source. There is a base amount that every MPO gets based upon population, but then there's also a supplement that MPOs get based upon the amount of funds that other MPOs in the state have not used. Those unused dollars go back into a pot and then they're redistributed to the MPOs. So perhaps in previous years, some of the other MPOs in North Carolina did a better job of spending their money. So that's part of the reason for that dollar figure dropping. The other reason is there's another MPO in North Carolina as a result of the 2020 census based in Southern Pines. So that's just yet another organization taking down some of that money. So that's the reason why that number is less than it is for the current fiscal year. The STBGDA money, that is a takedown that we've had in place for, well, quite a few years, just as a takedown in general. But at that 1.1 million, that's maybe about 3 or 4 years going at this stage. And that is flexible. And so if we do find that we might need that $316,000, we can quite possibly take down a little bit more in that DA column, or that DA row there, I should say. To make things whole, if we find that to be necessary as we go through this process. For section 5303, that's in italics because that is last year's number. We've not been given the number for FY25 quite yet, but we do anticipate, based upon feedback from folks at the NCDOT's Integrated Mobility Division, that number will be fairly consistent with the current fiscal year. So that's the funding picture at this point in time. Getting into tasks, if you've been involved with this process for any length of time, you know that most of what we do is cyclical in nature. We have a cycle for the Transportation Improvement Program, which is almost a constant, really. The MTP is developed on a 4-year basis. We have to update that every 4 years based upon federal regulations. So we will be starting on the 2055 MTP next year. The Comprehensive Transportation Plan is an ongoing activity. And then the other items listed there certainly are ongoing as well. The Metrolina regional model is critical to what any MPO works on. In terms of some of the issues and initiatives that have been identified so far, a host of different things. Some of these probably are rather familiar to you. Beyond 77, we've talked about the MTP, our strategic plan, making sure that's still used and employed by us as an organization to guide what we do. We've heard a lot of comments in the past year or so about the need for this organization to get more involved in safety planning. So we're anticipating doing something along those lines. The SEAM project is underway. You may not be familiar with that, but that is being led by Curtis, and that is looking at a Charlotte to Statesville trail. So that just recently got kicked off, and that'll be continuing into next year. And then other activities ongoing as well for us. This work is underway, and at least in its initial stages. On the section 5303 side, we did issue a call for projects in October that closed last week. We've held pre-submittal meetings with all the transit providers. Good news is that all the applications that were received indicate that the work is eligible for those funds. And we may have a little bit more money than we anticipated, but that's Might be a bit premature to say at this point. We still haven't gotten that final number yet. We did issue a major initiatives and issues request to all our partners as well as staff. We got good feedback from that, and we got additional feedback from a partners meeting we held at the end of October. So in terms of next steps, what we'll be doing right after Thanksgiving, most likely, and well into December, is we'll start assigning draft funding levels to all those task codes that I mentioned previously. And then in January, we'll come back to the TCC and to this board with a first draft, and then we'll submit a draft at the end of the month to NCDOT. In February, we'll come back with second drafts to TCC and board. And then in March, we'll request adoption from you. And then we'll, of course, submit the approved document to NCDOT, and then it'll go into effect on July 1 of next year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from any of the members? All right, looking around. Everybody wants to get to the main event, so. All right, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
All right, one of our favorite topics that we've talked about, it kind of generated some time back with the proposal for I-77 South, but it generated a lot of questions on the existing agreement, which is intact and which is something that we've all looked at, and some of us have lived with, some of you have lived with over the past few years. And what we wanted to make sure that we do is we start to, again, develop the relationships. And again, remembering that the relationship is between mobility partners and NCDOT. They've been very, very gracious to be able to step up and cooperate with us and answer some of the questions that we have. As you know, we generated a bunch of questions for them. Some of them, all of them were answered. Some of them may be more important to you as we go forward, but they have been gracious to come here and be in front of us tonight to just give, again, a collaborative and cooperative effort to make sure we put the questions to bed that some of you may still have. Again, remembering that this is the relationship between DOT and mobility. But again, we want to make sure that everything is clear and transparent, that everybody understands some of the issues at hand, some of the problems. Maybe we can use this to learn as we go forward, no matter who that provider or how that provider may operate. We wanted to make sure that we have maybe some takeaways, maybe some learning things that we can use going forward and start to tailor the next round, unless Mr. Knipe has about $4 billion extra funding in his budget somewhere, so we won't play with that. But with us tonight, we have a short presentation, and then we'd like to go over some of the major questions. I think there would be some of the questions that were answered probably don't need to be addressed, but if they do, we're certainly here and willing to do that. I have certainly Mr. Knipe, Mr. Brett Knipe from DOT, have David Garcia from Mobility, and Mr. Rob Bover. And they will help us with that. They also have some support staff here to bring with them. Some of the questions are complicated, some are legal. So we want to make sure at least we give you good, strong, transparent answers. So with that, I think Mr. Bryan's going to steer the ship for him up there. So gentlemen, you may start. This is
Thank you
Mr.
very much,
David Garcia.
Chairman Papas. Well, just I would
Bring
like,
that mic real up real close to you. It's portable.
Okay.
There you go.
sorry. Thank you very much, Chairman Papas. So, first of all, I would like to thank the opportunity that you are giving to us to come here tonight. I think it's going to be very, interesting for us to present our project and to explain which are the facts and benefits that we think that this project is bringing to the community. So thank you very much for the invitation. Also, well, I would like to introduce myself, if you allow me. My name is David Garcia. I'm I-77 Mobility Partners CEO. And well, if just to say something about my background, I am civil engineer. I would say that I've just landed to Charlotte. I took over this project this year in March in 2023. So I was coming from Canada. I ran 2 projects there, 2 highways in the east of Toronto, and we are very happy to come here to Charlotte. We have found a wonderful city with wonderful people. Or everyone that we have met has been very welcoming from us, with my wife and myself, and we are really happy to be here. And And also I am enjoying a lot the weather, and I'm very glad that I forgot my shovel in Canada. So I was told that I won't need to remove snow here. So I didn't pass the winter yet, so we will see if this was true or not. So, well, basically, as Mr. Papa said, I came tonight with my team. Rob Bosberg is going to make a presentation with the facts and benefits about I-77. And I came with another colleagues, John Takahashi, who is our CFO, John Buckley is our internal legal counsel, and Vicente Porta is our COO. So that's all. I will pass the word to Rob, so he will be able to start the presentation. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. And welcome. Welcome to Charlotte.
Thank you.
Rob?
Thank you again. And I'd like to reiterate what David has said. We really appreciate being able to come here and talk about the success and the benefits of I-77 Express, and hopefully we'll be able to clear up some misconceptions about what is a very successful project. So the first thing I'd like to do is just to give you an overview of the vastness of the project. 250 lane miles, 19 toll gantries, 60 cameras, 1.4 million square feet of noise walls, 48 miles of fence, 165,000 linear feet of guardrail, 2 million feet of striping, 420 acres, which we mow continuously, 27,000 delineators. You wouldn't believe how many delineators we replace in a year, 18 bridges. All that and more was created in just 4 years. We opened up fully November 16th, 2019. Tomorrow is our 4-year anniversary. We'll celebrate, I guess, by having a Coca-Cola or something like that. But I'd like to emphasize that all of this, everything that's listed there, is owned by the NCDOT. I-77 Mobility Partners does not own any of these assets, does not own any portion of this roadway. Our sole job is to maintain this roadway to the highest NCDOT standards and to ensure the safety of motorists. Nobody turned over state assets to I-77 Mobility Partners. There's no change in ownership. This remains the ownership of the taxpayers of North Carolina. We simply strive to maintain everything to the highest degree, and we think we do it on a daily basis. Our team of local employees does this and does an excellent job. So the good news, the next slide, is that I-77 Express is working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. What is it supposed to do? It's supposed to provide congestion relief for all drivers. And by that, I mean not just those drivers who choose to move into the managed lanes. I mean all drivers on the corridor. Those that also choose to go into the free general purpose lanes. Now, taking a look at these graphs, this data bears this out. If you take a look at the chart on the left, you will see the workday speeds. And the first thing to look at is the dotted red line. That dotted red line is the average workday speed in 2015 prior to the start of construction. There was no element of construction would get in the way prior to the start of construction on I-77. And as you might expect, during the morning and evening rush hours, there was an obvious slowdown in the speeds. You might also expect the light blue line, that's the average speed in 2022 for the managed lane. It's pretty steady throughout the day. What you may not expect is the dark blue line. That dark blue line is the average workday speed in the general purpose lanes. And there you can see a significant improvement in speeds, especially during the peak hours, the 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. morning rush hour, the 4 to 6 p.m. evening rush hour. And that is despite the fact that we've had significantly more traffic along the entire corridor, about 15% more traffic. It's no secret that more people are moving to this area. As more people move to the area, of course, they're driving along the I-77 corridor. It's also borne out by the next slide, which is the travel time index. Travel time index, what is that? Sounds complicated. It's really not. Travel time index, TTI, is an industry standard. It essentially measures how long a trip should take, compares it to how long a trip actually takes. So a perfect TTI, as it's called, a perfect TTI is 1.0. And that means that if you're traveling 60 miles on a corridor that has a 60-mile-per-hour speed limit, then you should be going for 1 hour. That would be a perfect 1.0 TTI. If it takes you 2 hours because of traffic, you're only able to travel at 30 miles per hour, then your TTI is 2. And as you can see there, again, from the red dotted line, the TTI for 2015, prior to the start of construction, was well above 2 during the peak periods. So that meant as you're going to work, as you're coming home, probably more eager to get home, it was taking you twice as long as it should have, going from Charlotte to Mooresville in between. The light blue line is what we would all expect. That's travel in the managed lanes, maintaining a perfect 1.0. Again, what you may not expect is the dark blue line. The dark blue line is close to 1.0. The high is about 1.15. We are seeing increased throughput. We are seeing increased reliability in the general purpose lanes. Again, the lanes are doing what they're supposed to do. And when you think about it, it makes sense. As more vehicles move into, they make that choice to move into the managed lanes, it frees up space in the general purpose lanes. And more vehicles are indeed moving into the managed lanes. So since inception, since the start of I-77 Express in November of 2019, we've seen 3 million distinct vehicles using the lanes. Right now, we're averaging about 300,000 distinct vehicles each month in the managed lanes. Now, there are a number of reasons. Increased reliability, increased speeds, whatnot, but also affordability. The average monthly bill for our customers is $19. Compare that to what you spend $19 on. That's essentially my Netflix bill for the month. 75% of our customers are paying in the range of 20%. Only 15% of our customers are paying over $30. The average managed lane customer is taking 3 trips a month, and the average length of the trip is 9 miles. Drivers are using the lanes. This is what we're seeing. This is what we've seen over the past 4 years, and most especially since traffic has finally picked up from the pandemic. What we're seeing is that drivers are using the lanes as managed lanes are intended to be used. These aren't toll lanes. You don't get on at the beginning and go at the end. Everybody pays. Drivers are choosing to skirt around pockets of congestion and then choosing to move back into the general purpose lanes. Only 3% of our customers actually go end to end from Charlotte to Mooresville or return. Another advantage of I-77 Express is HOV3+. We are proud to say that we are the only tolled roadway in North Carolina in which drivers who are carrying 2 or more passengers can ride for free. That is why we emphasize with the North Carolina Turnpike Authority to get yourself an NC Quick Pass. An NC Quick Pass allows you to declare HOV 3+. If you're a realtor taking a couple to go see something in Lake Norman, you should be declaring HOV 3+. If you're carpooling, you should be doing the same. 54% of parents in the United States take their children, drive their children to school. I know I did each and every day. And if you're taking I-77 Express, you should be utilizing HOV 3+. What we're seeing right now on average is roughly the equivalent of $713,000 in saved tolls per month through HOV, 94,000 trips. We would like to see more. We want more people to obtain an NC Quick Pass. In fact, today I just okayed new advertising geared solely toward that. Why? Because it's good for the economy, it's good for the environment. What's also good for the environment is more people taking CATS buses. CATS buses, Charlotte area transit buses, can always ride for free in the lanes. As of September 2023, CATS buses have taken 32,353 trips on the managed lanes. That's greater than the total of all of last year. We would like to see those CATS buses filled up. Once again, it's better for the economy, it's better for the environment. Motorcycles can also go for free. Emergency responders, again, always for free. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't have to be an emergency. Emergency responder vehicles always going for free. Speaking of free, 24-hour roadside assistance is provided by just an incredible cadre of individuals that we have there. Our safety service patrol, these brave men and women going out onto the highway. We all know how dangerous it is to work on the highway, but they are going out there 24/7 and they are providing relief to drivers in the general purpose lanes and in the managed lanes. If you need a gallon of gas, if you need your tire changed, if you need a jump start, whatever it might be, they're coming out, the gas is free, they're changing your tire, they're helping you for free. And they're doing it in an astoundingly quick period of time, 9.7 minutes. And I think, looking back here at our COO, I think the rate is actually falling. So anyone who's called AAA for a tow, and you've waited an hour, 2 hours, and you've made multiple phone calls, 9.7 minutes is a gift. And that's what we're doing. Something else that we're very proud of. This is new. We haven't talked about this in the future, in the public just yet. The I-77 Express Tolling Equity Program. So we partnered with Mecklenburg County. Stick with this one here. We partnered with Mecklenburg County. And we approached them about this idea of taking FNS recipients, food and nutrition supplement, essentially food stamp recipients in Mecklenburg County, and offering them 5 free trips per calendar month on the express lanes to help them get to medical appointments, to help them find better employment, to help them find employment. We sent out invitations to 54,000 families. This is a pilot program that began in April. It'll run for 12 months. We've had a pretty good response so far. Haven't talked about it because we're still, quite honestly, working out the kinks here, but it's working. And I would like to point out that we are paying every single dime. The county is not paying anything on this. We are even reimbursing the county for any labor that they spend verifying the data that we send them. We're proud of this because, next slide, please. This fits into our culture of service. we have tried from the very beginning, and I can't take full credit for this. I've been in this role for a year and a half, 2 years. I'm filling some big shoes. Jean Lear, she set the bar very high here. She went out, took a look around the community, the I-77 corridor community. And especially during COVID-19, she looked at the needs of that community. She assessed what was needed, and she tried her best to fulfill it. I am trying my best to live up to what she started, and I think we're succeeding. And I can say proudly that we just recently reached a milestone. We did that just this month. In fact, if you take a look at the far right corner, Applause for a Cause, that's something I started. It's essentially a concert helping nonprofits. We passed the $500,000 mark of actual cash giveaway to local nonprofits along the corridor. Gave $10,000 to Ada Jenkins. We gave $12,000 to Angels and Sparrows, Huntersville and Davidson, $15,000 to Feed NC in Mooresville, $15,000 to Time Out Youth. Those beautiful young ladies there on the left-hand corner, Dottie Rose Foundation, $25,000 to that organization. They work with Title I, fifth graders in Title I schools, interesting them in STEM education to create the next generation of doctors, lawyers, scientists, and we're so proud to have partnered with them and to donate that $25,000. You probably recognize City Council member Malcolm Graham there. We're a proud sponsor of the foundation that he set up for his sister who was slain during the Charleston church shootings, Cynthia Graham Hurd. She was a librarian. His organization is devoted to literacy. It's excellent. I'd really like you to pay close attention to the middle photo, the firefighters there. So this is something that we just decided to start. We wanted to take all of the first responders along the corridor and ask them, what happens if some calamitous event occurs? How do we respond to that? Who takes charge? How do we make sure the people who are injured get the help that they need? And how do we clear the highway as quickly as possible? So we took the school bus, tipped it on its side. Some of our employees went out, spread ketchup on themselves. They acted as victims. We got Med Center Air from Navant Health involved in this. And it bore fruit. And then this year we took a tanker truck and flipped that on top of a vehicle. We had a dummy inside, had to use the jaws of life. And we spread some fake chemicals on the ground. And again, all for what I said earlier, to ensure the safety of the general public. We are devoted to making sure that we are creating the most advanced, the safest corridor. I realize this is hubris saying this, but creating the safest corridor in North Carolina. The comprehensive agreement that we have with the NCDOT does not require us to put in cameras that use artificial intelligence to spot danger quicker. It doesn't require us to hold these exercises. It doesn't require us to go to a neighborhood in LaSalle Street when they approach us and say, we don't like the landscaping, we want something prettier, and to say, all right, we'll devote hundreds of man hours and $50,000 to that. We're doing this because we want to promote the culture of service. We want to be good corporate citizens. And I think we're achieving that. The wonderful men and women that we work with, these men and women live, work, many of them are born in this area. And they want to improve the lives of their neighbors. This last slide I put forward here, it's incomplete. The dates are gone. Here they come, slowly but surely. This last slide I put in here just to remind everybody that the idea, the notion of the P3 that gave birth to I-77 Mobility Partners did not just pop out of nowhere. It was a communal effort. MUMPO, which later became the CRTPO in 2013, was heavily involved in this. And I recognize fully that the people who are sitting here now, forgive me, people who are sitting here now weren't involved in that, but it was a communal decision. It was a decision that was made in 2010, 12, 13, 14, etc., all along the way. You know what? You may not agree with this decision, but I-77 Mobility Partners has borne fruit. It has done, as I said earlier, what it's supposed to do. It is providing drivers with choices, time savings, with reliability. And just as importantly, it is an economic engine for the region. A study was done just last year by STEER, S-T-E-E-R. It's a New York consulting agency. And it took a look using data from the federal government at the economic implications of the construction and continued operation of I-77 Mobility Partners, and the number that it came forward was $1.6 billion added to GDP. I hope you will see I-77 Express as an asset for the region. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you very much. Very informative. It goes back a little bit on history, so appreciate that. So now what I'd like to do, I know some of you have questions, so I'd like to go around the room to try to address some of those. And depending on the question, if we have some, we'll call it heavy hitting questions, then we'd like to get those out of the way first. If we have some lightweight questions, we can either skip those or go on. I don't know that anybody will want to really go through all 50 questions at a time, but if we really need to, then we'll decide how we do that. So I'm going to start on this side of the room with Mr. Brad. If you have any questions for the panel, and then I'll let them direct where the answer may come from.
No, this will
Can
be
I-
lightweight. Thank you
may
very
I-
much.
May I ask beforehand, does everybody have the handout that we gave so that we can go to the page in particular, or if not?
Some do, most do. Do we have them all out there?
We also have a copy of the PDF that we can pull up on the screen if we need
Okay.
to.
Just to be sure that we're referring to the same question.
You want to do that first? You want to get that up there? Can we get that up there pretty quick? Just in
Sure.
case.
Go ahead, Brian.
So, Mr. Chairman, before I ask, you're
Bring that
asking
closer to you so we can all, here, there you go.
questions that have been asked before.
That's correct. Right. That's fine. Jamie, question from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation, and I appreciate you, kind of explaining everything and for everyone to put the questions together. There were some really great questions. I thought the answers were pretty full in explanation. The one thing I kept going through as I was going through all the questions, it said I-77 Mobility Partners has never received any financial compensation for toll revenue from North Carolina DOT. What would put you in a position where that you would need compensation from North Carolina DOT? And I think part of that has been answered, but I just wanted to get your take on that.
Sure. And this I think touches upon a question that Mr. Higdon had put forward. And he may want to elaborate on that a little bit further, but it should be remembered that there is absolutely nothing in the comprehensive agreement which guarantees any form of revenue or any form of profit or I-77 Mobility Partners. I think the difficulty, the confusion arises over what's known as DRAM. DRAM is Developer Ratio Adjustment Mechanism. So this is something which would be triggered if I-77 found itself in such dire straits that it was unable to pay its debt obligations to the federal governments, its TIPIA loans, its PAB bonds. The money can only be used for that, only that, nothing else, not for operating expenses. The money cannot be dispersed to any of the equity investors. It is only for, in the most dire of situations, the payment of those federal obligations. So it is, I'm turning to our CFO here, it's 12.5 million a year. You don't have to come up just yet, but it's 12.5 million a year for a total of 75,000. And John can give you the actual ratio in which it would come forward. But again, it's solely for that. Okay. So the state of North Carolina, the taxpayers, they are not guaranteeing any amount of revenue. All right. We would also like to point out that when Governor Cooper shut down the state shortly after I-77 opened, what a terrific time to open, traffic volumes dropped 30% in North Carolina and across the United States. There was no thought at that time to ever invoke DRAM because it wasn't needed. And DRAM is something that actually helped the state of North Carolina. In the NCDOT was smart in including it because what it did was it allowed the federal lenders more security and lending more money to I-77 Mobility Partners, like an underwriter, if you will, or a co-writer, and required then a smaller portion, less taxpayer money from the state of North Carolina. So that is what DRAM is. It exists right now. It's never been utilized. We knock on wood, barring any sort of ultra COVID pandemic, we don't anticipate it being used in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up on that, please? Sure. Will you go to page 17 of these questions? Question number 1 from Craig Horn. Question number 1 says, what has happened when tolls collected do not meet the threshold within the contract, thereby releasing funds from the state reserves? The answer was, while I-77 Mobility Partners did not meet their revenue forecast during the first 3 years of the express lanes operations, the level did not go below a threshold that would trigger releasing funds from the state reserve. Who answered that question? Was that
The NCDOT. And again, that was referring to DRAM. So if you want a better explanation of DRAM, would you like that?
Sure.
Okay, then I'll bring up John Takahashi. And that threshold it's very technical, but it deals solely with DRAM.
Well, this seems to directly contradict what you just said, the way this is written. So it's confusing at the least.
And again, I understand your confusion with that, but please bear in mind, there's nothing in the comprehensive agreement which in any way provides revenue or profit, guarantees revenue or profit. So please, John Takahashi, our Chief Financial Officer.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your question. So to talk about DRAM in conjunction with this question, so to reiterate, DRAM can only pay for cash shortfalls and it could pay for debt service payments. So in this case, we refer to, there's a ratio that we look at called the debt service coverage ratio, which means after looking at our net cash position revenue after all of our operating expenses, if that amount falls below 1 time, basically it's below the amount of cash, below the amount of debt service payments that is required, then we would fall below the one time ratio. And in that situation, we would not be able to pay all of our debt service payments. So that would be the time where DRAM would be requested from the state. That would be the only time. As Rob was saying, DRAM, there's a $12 million cap on an annual basis. And in the aggregate, we can only draw $75 million. So that is the absolute cap for the DRAM. And to make it even more specific and even more explicit, within the comprehensive agreement, it does say that DRAM is not meant to provide or guarantee a minimum return on equity investment, and it's only meant to be used for debt payments. So it is very explicit in the agreement on what the use is. And even in the conjunction with this question, it is specifically referring to DRAM.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, we'll move around to the right here. Pick it up, Michael.
For my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, Ernestine. Mark? Ms. Gardner? Press that button. There you go.
I don't know if this is a lightweight question or not, but I'll ask it. You said the travel time saved as people generally moving, what did you say, twice as fast as they would if the lanes weren't built. My question is specific to peak travel time, and if you have commuters who use the lanes more frequently than just once a month or twice a month, that $19 indicates to me that that's somebody that the majority of your users are only using it once or twice a month. So do you have more data that's specific to commuter traffic that are traveling during peak travel times? And if you do, in relation to that, at the end point of travel, maybe going up to Mooresville or Lake Norman, what the average pay is for the workforce in those towns. So what I'm asking, I guess, more specifically is, you're saying it's a great deal for the users. If they're making minimum wage, is it really a great deal for them to be able to get to work on time?
Well, if you're looking for more specific data, we can certainly work on that for you. If you'd like to submit another question for that, I would reiterate that I-77 Mobility Partners, I-77 Express is always a choice. And what we're seeing on average, our average trip is $6. So that was not on the slide, but the average trip is.
That's not a peak travel time trip. The peak travel time trip from Matthews to Mooresville is significantly more than that.
Yeah.
It's an average, yeah.
Yeah, no, again, this is our average trip. If you're looking for a specific time period, what it would cost at that particular time, I don't have that data in front of me, and I would have to defer that to another time.
I would like to get that data on peak travel time commuter specifically, and whether it's traveling north or south.
Sure.
Yeah, let me go just add something. Well, what we're really seeing in the highway is that comparing the numbers with last year, 2022 and 2023, for example, comparing the first quarter and the second quarter of 2022 and the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023, we have had an increase of traffic of 22%. an increase in transactions with, I mean, this is translating in transactions 60 from 16 millions to 20 millions. So meaning that, you know, I think maybe you are referring about the cost of the trip, but what we are seeing in the traffic is that this is being increasing very substantially. So, I mean, this is taking us to the thinking that okay, this is a good price for the product, right, that we are selling.
Essentially, what the point that David is making is that people are viewing this as an excellent product for an excellent service for a reasonable price. And that's borne out by the increasing number of people who are using the lanes. I understand your question, and if you submit those questions to me, I'd be happy to provide them to you. I don't have that data in front of me.
John?
One of the questions I asked was, on average, at representative times of the day or week, what percentage of the people traveling on I-77 are using the managed lanes? The answer from I-77 Mobility Partners was that this is proprietary trade secret information. I mean, the lanes aren't stealth lanes. We can see who's riding on them. I think if we're going to consider putting managed lanes in other places in the county, we need to know what percentage of commuters are using them. So if you don't have that information, Mr. Knipe, does NCDOT have the information that you can provide to us to tell us how many people use these lanes?
So we don't have that data either. So that's not something that we're tracking readily. And you know, I'm not sure if you know, that's something that we could obtain in the future or not, but as of now, we don't have it.
So this, Mr. Higdon, this is what we consider to be a trade secret. This is something that we believe vendors and competitors could use to their advantage and our disadvantage. Trade secret as defined under North Carolina law. I would bring up John Buckley, our in-house counsel, to talk about that a little bit further.
If you could go ahead and approach.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the North Carolina legislature has looked at this tension that's there between, you know, typically private businesses have information that is confidential. I mean, lots of confidential business information. This is one of those things that's typically considered confidential business information. What the legislature has looked at is that in situations where there is, you know, an interest in oversight, some of that information is provided under the terms of the contract to the oversight agency. And in this case, some of that information is provided. But, you know, if you look at, and I'm just going to read part of this, it's, you know, North Carolina General Statutes, section 132-1.2 talks about confidential information in this context. And it talks about the fact that if the information, excuse me, got a little cold, if the information meets these 4 criteria, one of which is it's a trade secret as defined in another section of the statute, which I can get into. It's the property of a private person, which a business is considered a person under the statute. It's disclosed or furnished to the public agency in connection with the owner's performance of a public contract or in connection with a bid or something else related to the contract. And so, and then the last thing is it's just designated as confidential. So in this situation, all of those things are met. And to be a trade secret, it just means that it's business or technical information. In this case, you know, it could be either, but it's included but not limited to a formula, pattern, program, device, compilation of information, which is what this is, a method, a technique, or a process that derives independent actual or potential commercial value. And so this is what Rob was talking about, is the fact it's commercially valuable. People that we either
do business with as subcontractors, or we purchase that equipment off of people that might compete with us, are all interested in this data. And so, you know, that's the reference, for the definition of trade secret. It's under section 66-152(3). And so, you know, I think the legislature has kind of looked at this. I think there's a tension there. I understand the tension, but I think they've balanced it out, and they've, you know, determined that, you know, to the extent that we provide the information to NCDOT, NCDOT has the oversight authority on it. And if we were to disclose it further, you know, one of the things under Part B of the trade secret is that we have to make what it says is subject of efforts that are reasonable under the circumstances to maintain secrecy. And so that means, you know, if we were to publicly disclose it, then it's no longer trade secret, and then anybody could get a hold of it. And so that's why this legislature passed this statute.
That really stretches the boundaries of that. I think you don't think your competitors could easily go count how many cars go down a road? I mean, I'm an engineer in my day job. I'm familiar with what trade secrets and patents and things like that are, but how many people use a road? That I can't see how that could possibly be a trade secret. I disagree with your analysis, but that seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Okay. Any other questions?
All right, we'll go around this way. Mr. Ed.
Thank you. Dram again. So my understanding is that the state had set aside, budgeted a certain amount of money for this project of state funding. And that when the amount that was needed came up to be less, it was decided to use the unused portion for credit enhancement of the federal debt. Is that a fair description? Because in effect, what that is a contingent obligation of the state to cover the service of the federal debt, and therefore it's a credit enhancement. It means that the risks the feds are dealing with are mitigated by a commitment by the state of North Carolina under certain circumstances to cover a shortfall. And so that's what I, as a banker, would call credit enhancement. Is that the wrong understanding?
It is considered a credit enhancement, yes.
Right. So just again, for clarity, what that means is simply that the feds were more willing to lend or did on favorable terms because they had the benefit of the state using some of its capacity for funding in this project on a contingent basis with this arrangement. So I just look at that through the banker lens, and that was my understanding of how that worked. There's a lot of discussion around the pricing. And this, again, I understand is a trade secret or an IP type of situation. But just in terms of what the contract says, the only requirement that the contract has in it is that you charge enough for the use of those managed lanes to ensure that traffic can move at 45 miles an hour. Is that right?
Slightly. So 45, if the federal government allows an interstate to add managed lanes, then the federal government requires a 45-mile-per-hour minimum average speed. However, the comprehensive agreement with the NCDOT requires higher, and that is 80% of the posted speed. So that would be anywhere from 48 to 56 miles per hour.
Okay, understood. But what I'm getting at is the only burden on you is to charge enough in order to achieve at a minimum the throughput that is basically agreed to. For example, if there is light traffic on the road, you're not required to drop it to zero. That's not part of your deal.
No, drop to zero.
What's that?
You mean drop to zero? This is what
Sorry.
you mean, drop to zero?
The rate,
Oh,
The rates to zero, no.
What I'm trying to get at is you do your pricing in a certain way, and when you do, you have to comply with your contract with NCDOT. So what I'm trying to do is just clarify that contract says some things and it doesn't say other things,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm saying is that in essence, you are required to charge enough to restrict the traffic in the managed lanes in such a way that the desired speeds are achieved, right?
Correct.
And it doesn't otherwise prescribe the method that you can use for your pricing.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to bring that out because based on the way that deal was negotiated, NCDOT has responsibility as the contract partner for oversight here, but all NCDOT has to do is ensure that its requirements as to the tolls are being met, and therefore that the traffic is moving at least those speeds based on the amount that you're charging. My other question to you was, it'd be interesting, I think, for us to know, when you went through this entire process, unexpected things happen, right? And presumably did happen. So what can you tell us about your journey and what you learned? I mean, you came into it having done transactions in other places. Were there sort of special circumstances that you discovered as you implemented this contract and your entire journey, the history, that would be interesting for us to know about? Things that you hadn't seen before, peculiar to North Carolina, things that we might want to be thinking about as we look ahead.
Well, I don't know how.
But his experience with North Carolina is limited, but
Could you move the
perhaps
mic a
he
little
could
closer?
provide something with regard to what he experienced in Canada. And also he
Yeah, but
served in
Yeah, but
Spain.
it's not compatible, right? Because we don't have managed lanes there. So we don't have managed lanes there. So it's completely compatible, completely different scenario. But, I would say that, at the end, these lanes are, the name of these lanes are managed lanes, right? So they are designed to manage the traffic. So basically this pattern that we are seeing here of people jumping in and people jumping out of the managed lanes is how normally these managed lanes work everywhere, right? People not doing long distances as they do in toll highways, because in a toll highway you have to do just obviously the complete length. You don't have a free highway beside you. So in this kind of projects as managed lanes, they jump in and jump out. And I think this is the pattern that we are checking in all the managed lanes.
But in terms of our negotiation, I mean, we're obviously looking ahead, right? And understood, you guys are not involved in but just if you had any advice for us in terms of things that came up or, that might be helpful, that's all. It's not a trick question.
Sure.
Okay. Good. I guess that's it. All right. Thank you.
We'll move over our top.
And I will add to that we will certainly go around and query all of our executives and see if we can come forward with any recommendations or whatnot to provide to you after this.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Mr. Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David and Rob, thank you both for being here. Congratulations on 4 years. It's a monumental effort that has gone into it. And I do want to prove you wrong, Rob. I was sitting here back in 2010 on MUMPA.
Okay.
So you have one person in the room. And at that time, what I want to talk to you about is the methodology of tolling. So it's building a little bit on what Mr. Driggs was talking about. But at the time, we thought it was going to be something that would actually encourage people to get into the managed lanes. And so that it would be driven more by marketplace and type of use that was going on at that particular time of day. What I have discovered, because I do live in Cornelius, I was a former mayor of Cornelius at the time we went through most of this discussion, is that we were hoping that's what would occur, is that we'd have more alternate lanes for us to use. But really what it's turned into is a day of time change is what I'm seeing as far as how rates are handled. Can you explain a little bit more in depth? And I know it's one of the questions that's on the list. I'm sorry, I can't give you the sheet or the number, but the methodology of how you're tolling and how you set this algorithm that determines at what time of day certain things change. And perhaps if there's some flexibility so that we could perhaps encourage folks to actually drive and get in those lanes, particularly in those peak hours in the morning where we see GP lanes completely stopped and we see the toll lanes pretty much open.
Well, there are like 400 devices spread along the highway. So these devices are constantly taking information about the speeds or a number of vehicles and travel times. So all this information is collected and is being, let's say, checked by an algorithm that is providing the rates in each case, depending on the level of the traffic. So this is how it works. Obviously, the question here is that when you have this level of traffic during the peak hours, you can have, we don't want to have the risk of going down the minimum speed that we have to address according to our agreement. So everything that can happen beside the even in GB lines. For example, police stopped in the shoulder in GB lanes. That this creates some kind of distortion that immediately affect to the speed even in many lanes, and this can drop very quick, especially in peak hours, right? So basically, this is how it's working. I don't know if I make me clear. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I've actually heard your answers before at the Turnpike Authority. I just want to encourage you to perhaps go back and look at that policy, because there are times, particularly in peak hours, where I see very minimal use, where you could certainly give some relief to the congestion in the general purpose lanes. So as I've asked before, I prefer that you to go back and actually review that. And as Mr. Driggs was asking about a minimum amount that you can charge, are there maximum amounts that you can charge as well? Isn't that a policy that's being approved at the state level as to how much you actually can charge for rates?
Well, basically, what we are trying to do here is to provide a good price for, I mean, a reasonable price for a product that for a good service, right? So I mean, we have these obligations to keep this minimum speed in the highway. So this is basically what is running the prices. We need to. I mean, the only tool that we have in the agreement, in order to be sure that we are in compliance with the minimum speed that we have to comply with, is the price.
Right. I appreciate the reliability.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will, if David doesn't mind, I will add to that. There is no maximum, but that's because of the length of the contract. We don't know what will happen 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. Could there be hyperinflation? Who knows what can happen? But the goal that we have today is to deliver an excellent product at a reasonable price. That will be our goal tomorrow. That'll be our goal 10 years down the road. That'll be the goal 20 years down the road. Now, I'm sure that automatically raises up the specter. Oh my God, well, they could charge $100 or $150 or something along those lines. Well, in point of fact, every private business could charge whatever they want for a product. You could walk into Starbucks and they could charge $100 for a cup of coffee, or you could charge, Kroger's could charge $50 for a 6-pack of Coca-Cola, but nobody would buy it. We are always weighing what we believe to be a reasonable price for an excellent product. As my father used to say, nothing's worth nothing unless someone is willing to pay for it. If the prices are too high, then we're not going to get an increase in business. And I think that what we're seeing right now is being proved out, that people believe the prices are reasonable. And that is why we are seeing an increase in monthly customers coming forward. We are constantly asking ourselves, is this a reasonable price? And are there other tools that we could utilize? Are there potential discounts or things along those lines that we've talked about all that, and they may indeed be part of our strategic plan for the future. We've had these discussions because we recognize that we want more people to utilize the lanes, and we want more people to believe them to be reasonable. And these are things that we are having constant discussions, I should say, about, and further decisions will be coming down the road.
Thank you, Rob. I think we share that same objective.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and thanking our chair, who went to a lot of effort to shepherd this process through. I don't think this has been done before. And I know it was because of his leadership that we were able to actually get a 30-page document with the answers. So I'm sincerely grateful to you. You know, preliminarily, I'd like to say that when you talk, sir, about supply and demand and the marketplace and capitalism generally, the comments that you were just making about you want to induce people to purchase a product, you know, I do want to remind all of us that roads are public infrastructure. And so, you know, I hope that that administration that negotiated this contract, and if we ever enter into another similar contract, that we're all mindful that we're not looking to exactly what the market will bear, but you know, what we deserve to achieve for our residents as a fundamental piece of infrastructure without which people can't function. And, you know, regarding the increase of ridership, I don't know that we have the data to know that the increase in ridership is across the board equal. It may be people who can afford it, and working families who cannot are just left behind without access to jobs and homes and upward economic mobility. So, you know, I like using the toll roads. It's certainly very efficient, but I don't think that's the end of the analysis when we evaluate it holistically. So I hope you bear that in mind as we go forward. Regarding page 5, the reduced fee, number 12, it says that you have sent invitations to 54,000 households for 5 free trips. And I did reach out to the Department of Social Services in Mecklenburg County, trying to find out where we are in the process, but I haven't gotten that answer. So can you tell me?
Sure, absolutely. As I said, we sent out applications to 54,000 households, and that started on on August 1st. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a delay, a little bit of a lag in sending them all out because they couldn't all be sent out at once. But right now we sit at about 700 participants who are taking part in this program. The number is continuing to grow. I'm remembering this just from memory. I think the number for October was 700 plus free trips that were taken.
Well, I doubt does the contract require you to give any free trips?
No, this is entirely
Gratuitous. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge that, you know, 54,000 people offered 5 free trips, to me translates into 270,000 free trips that you have set yourself out there that you're willing to extend to the public. And I would submit that 5 free trips a month is not sufficient to give anybody the ability to have a job and access to a job. And so I might suggest to you to perhaps retool the number, if you took the 270,000 trips and you run the numbers for someone who's going to a job in a normal month, that's like 480 trips per year. You know, you could actually enable 500 or 1,000 people to really take a job
Sure.
and get from point A to point B, which would maybe be a more meaningful way
Yeah.
to actually make an impact. And the $80,000 that I saw that you donated to some nonprofits, which again is totally gratuitous, and I mean, not required, and I appreciate it. But I think it might be something to consider, to take whatever resources you're willing to donate to increase and make a more robust policy. You know, perhaps someone, you know, people who are 200% above the poverty line, or 300, you know, I don't know the right metric.
Well, we don't
But
know the right
something.
metric either. This is, as I said, a trial program. It's never been done. And in fact, we're checking, but we think it's the first program of its type in the country. And I admit that 5 free trips may not sound like much. But what we're seeing so far is that although we have 700 people who have signed up, not all of them are actually taking trips. A small minority of them are taking trips. So some of the things that we've got to work out are, some of these people obviously are Uber drivers, and they're taking trips. Some of these people, we've tried to give as much leeway as possible. A mother called me up and said, I don't have a car, but can I register my son's car? Well, technically we're not supposed to do that, but yeah, of course, if you're the sole caretaker for your car, absolutely, we're going to do that. But at the end of the 12 months, and before I continue, I need to say that Mecklenburg County personnel have been absolutely dreamlike to work with. I mean, just, they've bent over backwards. They've loved this. So they really appreciate us doing this. And I can absolutely see us continue this and expanding on it. What we really need now is data from the people who are utilizing this. Is it useful? How is it useful? How could it be more useful? And we're just in the process of gathering that. And then we'll have some further conversations with the Department of Social Services. It's a terrific program. Mecklenburg County DSS seems to love it, and we hope to continue with it. We hope to expand it. And in fact, we have been in conversations with Sintra, and Sintra likes it so much that they may incorporate it in their other concessions. So I think we've started something good.
That's very encouraging. You know, another thing I might suggest you consider is reaching out to Charlotte Works or some of our workforce development providers, because they're going to be in contact with people who are, you know, having barriers to jobs, such as transportation. That could be a more advantageous way to go. Regarding your giving, allowing HOV3 presently, so that's allowed in the toll road, but HOV2 is not, correct?
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, are you advertising HOV3 so that the public knows?
Absolutely. In fact, I just signed an $80,000 contract today to get some billboards up. In fact, if anybody here goes to Trader Joe's, starting in November, you're going to see some billboards in that parking lot about HOV3. Yeah, we would absolutely love more people to take advantage of HOV3.
Thank you. What is the estimated time of completion for the backup, the construction that we're seeing on I-77 between exit 23 and 30?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to turn to Mr. Knight for that.
And I cannot quote that. I really wish I could. I can definitely get that information to you.
Thank you. That would be fine if you follow up. So has there been, I see that there was some discussion around encouraging greater use of the new capacity by allowing HOV2 for some period of time. Is that moving forward? Where is the discussion on that?
Well, so this series of questions that you have come from the Mercator report. And I need to issue an explanation here, not necessarily an apology, but an explanation here. Because in your response, you stated that we were not responsive to these questions. I-77 Mobility Partners had absolutely zero involvement in the Mercator report. This was something that was put forward by the NCDOT, and nobody in the Mercator Corporation approached I-77. And so all of the recommendations came to the NCDOT, and that's why the NCDOT answered those questions. Having said that, if you have specific questions regarding those recommendations, we would be happy to entertain them. But that's why we naturally had acquiesced to the NCDOT idea that they would answer those questions. And if you do, please pose them right now.
So are there discussions around HOV2?
And that's something that we would have to have with the NCDOT. It's in the contract that it's HOV 3+. And if we would change that, that's something that we would have to agree to with HOV, with the NCDOT. The quick answer is no, we have not had those conversations.
Are there plans to, Mr. Knipe?
So we're absolutely willing to enter in that conversation. If Mobility Partners would like to do that, at least have a conversation, absolutely, we can do that. We're not currently pursuing it, to answer your question specifically, though.
Okay. What is the debt service payment? What's that?
You want to explain that one?
Sorry, Ms. Altman, I guess just to clarify, do you want to know what our debt structure is?
Yes, thank you.
So we have so there's $100 million private activity bond issued. On top of that, there's $189 million loan granted by the TIFIA program from
Sorry,
USDA.
what kind of loan? What was that term you said?
TIFIA loan?
Okay.
Yeah, it's through the TIFIA program granted by the USDOT.
Okay, and my last question is, on page 1 of the document, you set forth the maintenance costs, I believe, which is separate and apart from the cost of operation. So can you please tell me what the cost of operation is?
Sorry, are you referring to the tables?
Where I think, yes, right there. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, basically, we have the obligation to maintain the highway fence to fence, meaning that we have to provide assistance to the users. We have to repair guide rails. We have to collect debris. We have to sweep the highway. All the works that naturally NCDOT would do in another highway, we have to do also. So this is basically the cost of doing that one.
Thank you, sir. I'm asking, can we get a breakdown annually for the cost of operation, which is, I assume, greater than the cost of just maintenance?
Well, I don't have the numbers here, so I cannot provide this.
Can you supplement?
Well, let me go back and we will do.
Thank you, sir.
See what we can do.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Rusty.
Mr. Chair, I've got a couple new questions, but I'm going to defer until we get all the way around the table. But I do have one comment about the question that Mayor Higdon had about the traffic count and usage. I have a traffic count for Main Street in Davidson. I know that 22,000 cars use Main Street or Highway 115 in Davidson every day. We didn't make that number up. That number came from DOT. So I'm assuming, Mr. Knight, that we have a traffic count for I-77. Correct?
So we do have average daily counts for
Okay,
most of our major roadways.
All right.
Yeah.
because that goes with the information that I-77 Mobility Partners has shared. It said that since inception, there's been greater than 3 million unique users. So if I say that that's 3 million cars in 4 years, that's 750,000 a year. So I would say to you that if I've got a traffic count on 77 and I put that ratio in there, I can come up with a generic figure. I would have to defer to the legal counsel on trade secret as this being proprietary. There's 46 more years on this contract. This is not the chemical formula for making Coca-Cola or Hershey's chocolate. It should be relatively simple. I think with a contract that's got a sunset 46 years from now, the sensitivity of proprietary or trade secret shouldn't come into play. So that's all I got to say right now, but I do have some new questions.
Okay, very good. Mr. Rosenberg,
Chairman, thank you.
hit that mic.
There, that's better. I apologize. I want to clarify my statements by saying as a member of the North Carolina Board of Transportation, I'm totally in support of toll roads. I believe they're the future. We're going to have to do a lot more. I find the presenters not really understanding PPP. This is a private-public partnership. There seems to be something missing in that observation, in my opinion. Also, the balance between use and fee. I drive 77 toll roads regularly. I love them. But I've always been mystified that there's nobody in the managed lanes and the free lanes are full. So I'd make the argument there's something wrong with that price use calculation as I see it today. The last thing, I know this will sound a little harsh, but while I like the written answers, I find these verbal answers very obtuse. And I think if we're going to have clarity and move forward on other toll roads that we need, not only in this region, but across the country, across the state, we better get more clarity so the community's happy. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Dale.
Not as much a question as it is a comment. Seems like we're all asking for about the same question between the financials and car counts, and I drive 77 quite often. And especially in the evenings, it seems like we've always got a backup all the way to Independence trying to get onto the free lanes, and you can zip right down through and get onto the toll lanes. Again, as far as doing the car counts, I can look over and see that there is very limited use on the toll lanes. Now I'm from a grocery background, and we always had a saying, I'd rather sell 30 items at a nickel than 10 items at 10 cents. You're going to make more money by getting more vehicles on there. I'm thinking your pricing is out of line a little, but the biggest issue is you're asking the town of Charlotte to go through a long drawn out process of tearing up the roads, and for a short, in other words, there are going to be a lot of problems with the construction, and going through all this for very few people seem wanting to use it for the pricing.
Well, this is what I told you before. I don't know if you are referring to the peak hours. We are basically what is driving this one is our obligation to keep a specific amount of minimum speed in the managed lanes. If you are talking about the off-peak hours, what we are saying is that we have seen an increase a tremendous increase in traffic from 2022 to 2023 and previous years. And what we are thinking is that the price that we are having is a fair price for the value that we are that we are providing, and always trying to balance the level of service with the price that we are providing, that we are asking.
Well, and again, I can actually see, I don't need a line or a counter. You can go out there anytime. There's a lot of empty space in those toll lanes. You'll make more money if you'll reduce your price. You'll get more vehicles on it.
Well,
I don't need a counter or look, I mean, I can actually see it. This is not being used as it should be, to the point that where we have backups, people waiting to get on the free lanes.
Yeah, so I guess you are talking about a peak hour. So I mean, is what I'm telling you. We need to provide a level of service because it's in our contract that we have to provide a specific level of service. So the drop of pricing would mean more people using the managed lane. So we would go below the threshold that we have to, the minimum speed that we have to ensure, because our contract asks for that one. So if we don't do that one, we would be penalized.
I think that what you're bringing forward is anecdotal evidence, and I say this with all due respect, but we do have data that shows that there is increasing capacity in the managed lanes, and Vicente, who is our chief operation officer, can bring that forward. So although you may think that you're seeing free space, in fact, the managed lanes are indeed filling up, especially during the peak periods.
Yeah, so, and just to give more clarity to that aspect about the peak periods, you are just considering the instant analysis. But the other thing that you need to take into consideration is the billing. So people, a big barrier is what they are paying in a monthly basis as well. So even you need to be constantly monitoring with those 400 devices that David was mentioning, how the traffic is behaving, to ensure that no matter what is happening, the people has reliability and trip purpose, that they know that in 7 minutes to go from one exit to the other, they will do it. And that's mainly the focus of this type of product. It's a product of choice. And I just want to add for the question for Ms. Gardner, that it's important that you should know that we don't have access to the people. So we know people by tag IDs and plates, and all the transactions, we create the transactions, and it's in CTA who process them and end up contacting the users. To your specific questions about Mooresville data, we need a lot of back-end engineering to process it. But I can tell you that what we call the north section, that is from Catawba to the north, in the GPS last month, in the AM peak southbound, we were having 68 miles per hour. So people is not driving slow, and that's what we have seen in the last month. And for the whole average of the corridor, it has been 58 miles per hour. So at the end, this product is providing also some kind of improvement in the speed of everyone. And depending on your trip purpose and your need, you can hop in and hop off, depending on the different situations.
Do you have percentage as well?
For people jumping in peak periods, for example, we can see that in the peak periods, for example, in the north area, we are around in the 40% range of people driving in the north section. So we are seeing a 40% in peak times in the work time. So southbound going to Charlotte, northbound during the afternoons, we are seeing around the 40%. So
40%, it should be borne in mind, is just close. That's really the level at which you stop having throughput. Is that correct?
Well, it kind of this, yeah, is what also David was mentioning, that to ensure that trip reliability, that no matter what is happening, you will get there at a time that you are expecting, and kind of give you a fixed time for each trip at any time. That's kind of where we are on those ones. And we are constantly monitoring and looking which are the seasonalities and which are the aspects. If we have holidays, if there is a special event, just to make sure that it's always fair for a reasonable price for the great product that is tell you be there in X minutes, no matter what.
Hey, John, your question was relative to what he was talking about. So
Yeah,
I'll
I've
let
got a
you go
related,
here.
related question on the original presentation with total trip time, which I think was like your second or third slide. I don't know if we need to go back to it, but you said something to the effect, maybe we do need to go back to it, maybe I misunderstood it. You said a perfect trip, if it was 60 miles an hour, then it would be a 1, which would be 60 miles in an hour. And you said that the, let's just go back to the slide, so.
Yes, there.
So you said the dark blue was the general purpose lanes, which are at worst, even during peak times, are 1.15. So that would indicate people are driving approximately 85% of the posted speed limit in the general purpose lanes. I guess, is this for the entire corridor, I guess, or? I mean,
It is for the entire.
okay, because we're certainly not seeing this in areas like what Dale's talking about, because I mean, our eyes don't lie. We sitting in traffic and the managed lane or the managed lanes open, so.
There are always going to be, without a doubt, there are always going to be backups, and some of those backups should be borne in mind. Don't have to do with the corridor in and of itself. It has to do with the exits. That the exits cannot handle the amount of traffic. So for example, when you're riding in the morning, you're seeing a backup getting onto 85. Is it that 85 can't handle the amount of traffic coming in? Is that the exit? It's not necessarily the I-77 corridor. If you're seeing exit 23, it's the same thing. So those are definitely creating backups without a doubt.
Right. We'll go back around this way. So who wants to start on this side? Craig?
Well, I'm just gonna ask about one thing and that is I'm fascinated with this minimum average speed of 45 miles an hour. I'm fascinated to how is that determined the length of the entire project? Is it determined over a specific period of time? Tell me, what does that mean? Minimum average speed of 45 miles an hour. If you've got somebody going 10, so that means that somebody else is in the managed lanes is going to be going 70, so that you get 80, that's 40 miles an hour average, that's not going to work. So how do you determine, what are the parameters that determine a minimum average speed of 45 miles an hour?
So you wanna explain that one, Vicente?
So it's expressed on the comprehensive agreement that we have with NCDOT and is measured by sections, okay? All sections in 180 days rolling average, they need to be above 400 miles per hour on the peak times. That's the provision on the agreement. And the origin, it's coming from FHWA. So it's a condition determined by FHWA. And on top of that, there is another condition that we have to be above that 45, that is 80% of the posted speed limit. So in reality, we have two conditions. We need to be above 45 miles per hour and 80% above the posted speed limit in peak times by sections.
Well, I think I understand. I'm not sure of it by any matter of means. It does seem to me that we're trying to offset supply and demand, which deals with the pricing for the managed lanes versus traffic movement, which is more important. And by that, I mean, if there's more traffic, would indicate more demand for use of the managed lanes. But that's not actually what seems to be happening. Now, maybe it's in the process and it's going to take 5 years for that to play out. But in the meantime, we got an awful lot of people backing up. Great sources of frustration, which is then taken out on all of us on issues far beyond I-77. So
What do you mean by more people are backing up, sir?
that if there is a large number of folks, high demand, little supply, we raise the price.
Yeah.
That's how prices often are dictated. I grew up in the meat business.
Right.
And it's supply and demand, and prices change every 15 minutes in the meat business, and sometimes more frequently than that. But I also have another issue, and that is that meat traffic is backing up and it's got to go somewhere. So sometimes, as was indicated by my friend here who is in the grocery business, if you lower the price, you actually move more vehicles. You move more vehicles across the entire spectrum of the available roadway. And that sort of like taxes, if you lower the rate and broaden the base, you actually bring in more money. Well, it seems to me that that's not what's happening with our managed lanes process. It seems to me that based on what I'm hearing for others, and I live on the south side, so we're not yet hit with this, but it's coming. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can in that regard. But I'm going back to the fact that you've got an agreement on managed lane pricing that it appears is counterproductive when you've got lots of traffic backing up.
Yeah,
What am I missing?
Yeah, let me explain the concept. The concept of this is that we have to provide a specific minimum speed in the managed lanes. So meaning that we have to provide a specific level of service for the managed lanes. So this is what is driving this, right? And what we see is that every year more people is using this concept, so it's liberating traffic in the GP lanes. So this is benefiting also for people that is not using managed lanes. So because the cars that are in managed lanes are being less and less, so the traffic is more fluid.
I'm not capable of rephrasing my question or ask any more at this point, so I defer.
We'll move on. Go backwards here.
Let me try for an explanation. So if we have an NCDOT requirement for the maintenance of 56 miles per hour, let's say,
okay,
in the managed lanes, and we forget about our algorithm and we artificially just lower the rates, thinking that we're going to pull in more people. Right now, the average speeds in the general purpose lanes in the managed lanes, you're looking at 62, 63 miles per hour in peak periods. There's not a lot of leeway there. And especially when you consider that those two managed lanes, as they move north, go to one managed lane. And we all know what happens when there's a bottleneck. That'll slow things down. So artificially lowering the lanes, hoping to pull more people over, runs the risk of getting below that 56 mile per hour. And then once you get to that bottleneck, you could soon be at 40 miles per hour. So 2 questions that would arise from that. One is, we're not adhering to the NCDOT contract and we're paying a fine. And number 2, you're then asking customers to pay for a service that really doesn't provide a benefit. So I'm asking you to pay for something that we're not actually delivering. So the artificial lowering of this, not based upon our algorithm, but just based upon the notion that we might be able to draw in more people could create calamity. And that's why it's not done.
I'm conscious of the clock, so I'm not going to exacerbate this. It's worth some more discussion because I think there's some
I'm happy to-
substantial counter argument.
I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to have that discussion with you.
We knew this was
Not-
going to be a learning exercise, so no doubt about it.
You know,
Let's jump a little bit. Dale.
Yeah, and please, no, I don't want to take away time from anybody else.
So I understand what Craig was trying to say here. So basically, you're wanting to cater to the people who can actually afford a higher rate to get them from one end to the other, but you don't care about the traffic that can't afford it or it's out of their budget, so they can stay in the line for a longer length of time.
No.
And which is actually doing nothing
No.
to help a traffic situation.
No, not at all. That's not true whatsoever.
Well,
so the NCTA vigorously guards the data of its customers. So we would love to do an analysis of who takes the lanes. I recognize that this is not necessarily scientific, but what we wanted to do, because we've heard this before, these are Lexus lanes. Only the rich can afford to take these. So what we did is we took a look at the vehicles of our 200 top users. And those 200 top users drive Ford, Chevy, and Dodges. They don't drive Mercedes. They don't drive Land Rovers. They don't drive Lexuses. Ford, Chevys, and Dodges. We would love to be able to dive deeper into that with the NCTA's permission. But we do not see that. And again, the fact that we are seeing an increasing number of people who are utilizing the lanes tells us that more people view this as a reasonable product, as an excellent product for a reasonable rate. Think about what you spend $6 on. What's a cup of coffee? Think of what you spend for a monthly bill on Netflix. This is not geared toward only the rich. Clearly, if it was geared toward only the rich, we would not have 300,000 distinct users plus using the lanes. They would not be a success. There just aren't that many rich people in this region.
Can we hold that thought for just a second, though? So I want to, if your question is directly related to what he's up now, because there's going to be other questions and then. Okay, quick question. Let me bounce over here real quick.
I understand the point that you're trying to make about what type of cars use that lane. We all in this room know that every kind of car has every tier of luxury to it. So I don't think, without couching that data in some sort of context of how many Fords are on the road in America, you can use that as an appropriate comparison. But it is a little bit tone deaf to the conversation at hand about affordability with these lanes. So I want to make that abundantly clear that it's not coming across maybe in the way that you hope it is.
Okay. Let me bounce over here. Ed, are you ready for yours? And
Well, I think I would counter that by saying a BMW or a fully loaded Land Rover is $250,000. So we're seeing vehicles that I think everyone in this room can afford. And I recognize it's not a scientific survey. Again, I admitted from the very beginning, it's not a scientific survey.
right before, and we're certainly at. I wouldn't want to be in the shoes to try to determine what those who put this together 10, 12 years ago were thinking at the time and what their goals were at the time. It very much sounds like we have some differences in what these lanes were designed to achieve. And if in fact that they were designed to achieve movement, that's one consideration. If they were designed to allow more people to use them, that's another consideration. And if in fact, in my couple of years now of sitting through and listening to all of some conversations with Centra and all of you guys and DOT, it seems like they were designed to move traffic at 45 miles an hour. And that was the key driver of almost everything from, at least from what I've seen. Now, again, I don't know, you were here, Chuck, you said earlier, but I think not many of us were here at the time. So again, I wouldn't want to make any assumptions on what our founding fathers were thinking when they're designing this whole thing. So let me pause on that for just a bit, and I'm going to drop to Ed here to make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of the remarks that we're hearing around here are critical or skeptical in nature. And I just want to emphasize the fact the only obligation on Mobility Partners is to comply with the terms of their contract. It's a private company. They are bound by the contract. If we have concerns, then that's a good opportunity for us to look at that and think about what we should be taking away. No point in trying to renegotiate that deal. That deal is signed, right? And anything that we don't like that it allows or provides was negotiated by NCDOT, and our interests at that time were represented by them and, you know, by our predecessors. So, for example, as a business person and an economist, I would say that a company operating lanes like that would probably try to do their pricing like an airline in a revenue maximizing manner. And then what NCDOT said was, okay, but you have to charge enough to meet our requirement that the traffic moves at a certain speed. Now, what that, the definition of what that speed is or whatever, but let's just take it as a concept. So we have a boundary condition. This is like a linear programming exercise. I mean, pardon me, but that's how, you know, how I look at it. So now we think, well, that allows for outcomes that we don't think are ideal. So when we do this again, we can't change that, right? That deal is done. But when we do it again, would we introduce financial tests or certain reporting requirements? But just know that if we do, the terms of our discussion with whoever this other party is will change. Like if we go to 2 vehicle instead of 3 vehicles, that's a new deal, right? So if we wanted to require, or you know, we said to Mobility Partners, hey, let's let the 2 occupant vehicles go over there, they would want something back. They would be entitled to want something back because that's a new deal. So I guess all I'm saying is I have a lot of the same concerns I'm hearing. I'm going to be looking very critically at how specific we are about pricing when we go, if we go to do this again. I will also be looking, based on our experience and the observations about the actual utilization of the lanes, I will be looking at whether the freedom, the pricing freedom that they have now permits them to say, hey, I could make the most money charging $30 a car, right? That car is going to go at more than 45 miles an hour, so it meets the requirement. And then you have the lightly used lane situation because that's the revenue maximizing outcome. You can look at the term of this thing. It goes out 50 years. Should we have some sort of a test on the return on equity so that we pay fairly for the capital? Because Mr. Chair, the point is it's a mobility thing, but also it's a financing thing, right? So we want to pay a fair price for that capital that is coming from a different source than the state. So maybe we look harder at the reporting requirements or at tests on at some point in time, if the debt has been fully repaid, does the turnover date come sooner or do the terms change? Because the way this thing is written right now, the pricing is intended to be sufficient to cover operating expenses and reduce debt. What if the debt's paid off in 20 or 30 years, right? Shouldn't we get the road back then? So all I'm saying is I don't think we should criticize the people who are here. I think they are doing what they committed to do and what we required of them. And the real questions that we have to ask ourselves is the next time we have a chance to have that conversation, what are we going to do different? So I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the value that you've created. I believe that you have complied with the terms of your agreement. And it's on us to decide whether in a future conversation, we want to do things differently. But thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Thank you very much. Whoever said.
Yeah, and well said. I mean, again, just from my brief interaction with Centra and having the conversations with DOT and staff, I mean, I hear in this room that we have some, vast differences in what the purpose was 10, 12 years ago when this was conceived. So we always knew that this was going to be a learning exercise, for what happens next, no matter how we fund it, who we fund it with next time around. But I really do think this was a valuable exercise, quite frankly. And I don't think that we're done with all the questions, but I think that we've all probably hit on the high points in there. And so what I would like to do now is let's go back around. I know there are a couple of quick questions on that. I mean, not to untie you, but go ahead.
Mercifully none. I'm happy to end with Ed's comment. I think that was the most important thing. I learned a lot tonight. This is a learning exercise. I'm content and happy to be prepared for the next contract. So thank you. I learned a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jamie.
Again, going through everything, it sounds to me like you've done what we've had DOT's asked you to do. Sounds to me like there's a contract issue. And it's something that I don't know if we can get back in and open that back up. But the only other part I would say, I'm from the South, I'm over on Craig's part of the country. But when I do take that chance to go up I-77, I look at it and say, something's not right. And I'm not smart enough to figure it out tonight or anytime. But I am from the camp that says we should never try to recreate the wheel. So when I go to other large cities who have express lanes and stuff, I see those express lanes moving and they're functioning. They're taking some relief off the other general lanes and are going over. I see one of the responses in here, drivers who already have E-Pass, Easy Pass, I-Pass, Peach Pass, Sun Pass. Are we looking at some of the data that can be provided by them from either a pricing standpoint, a per car standpoint statistic that's there? That would be my only thing as we would go, maybe with the possibility of going back in and looking at the contract again, using some of that, the data that they could provide, and then just trying to figure out, not putting something so hard fast in the contract that it's going to prohibit us from getting to the main goal of what we're trying to do to begin with. And that's my only thing. But I appreciate you coming in and taking our questions today. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Michael.
Yeah, thank you. So I heard you mention bottlenecks a couple of times in your responses, and one of them was with regards to you can't fix the bottlenecks. Like when you've got the merging traffic, it can't handle the traffic that's merging on the interstate. Well, one observation that I have is a user in one of those bottlenecks up, we're in Cornelius where you have the $7 max charges. Is that it seems like the bottlenecks that get created are a lot different with 4 lanes. If you're barricaded to 2 lanes, essentially you haven't gained anything because you only have one free lane of traffic moving. So even though you've added 2 toll lanes that might be moving at 65 miles an hour, when you're merging onto the interstate, you still have that bottleneck because everyone's trying to merge into the one lane and or are moving. And so I'm just wondering if you've considered, are there any solutions for that merging activity that takes place that creates those bottlenecks? And then the second, and then I think that these guys to the south should be looking at their exits and see if they're gonna have the same problem. Because my experience, by the way, is that when I get on the interstate, there's typically in the free lanes, it's typically backlogged during peak hours almost all the time. And that's all the way from exit 23 to 30. And I also noticed that accidents are up substantially, 18%, I think is a huge increase. So if we saw you know, an increase of plane crashes by 18%, we'd all be freaking out, right? So that's a huge increase in crashes and it's still trending upward. And one of the other things I heard you talking about is your observation on how people are using the toll lanes. They're jumping in and out. Well, you know, I wouldn't be surprised because of the way that I've seen people drive to try to get in and out of the toll lanes, that's not helping to create some of those issues. So I'm wondering if you guys have put some thought to that, what's creating those increases in accidents, and you know, if so, what are your plans to address it? So one, the bottlenecks, and then two, the accidents, the increase in accidents. Thank you.
Yeah. Christine?
Live in Marshville. I'm not on the toll lane a whole lot, and when I do come through, it's not peak hours. But the questions that we're asking, and we keep saying, wonder why the lanes are empty. Why not ask the people why the lanes are empty? Why are we going around this table keep saying we know why they're empty? Because people can't afford to get on them on a daily basis. So we keep going around a question that we know the answer to, or if we don't know the answer, why not ask the people that regularly use it? Why are you not using it? Why are we backed up? And you will have the answer. That's
Mark?
This is only my second meeting at this board, and I'm from Union County, Marshville area too. And we do have the expressway, and if I need to get on it, I'll get on it, but it's the way it was designed from where I live, it's not real feasible to use it. But what you've described to me tonight is the perfect business model anybody could have ever got. It's as good as Microsoft or the beginning of the first thing. By you've got a situation to where you have to meet a criteria to meet traffic moves to a certain point. You can adjust your lanes, the tolls on the lanes, to keep it moving the way you need to. And then the other thing that I've never not heard anybody say, if you can make a profit on that lane with less traffic, then that's less maintenance you have to deal with. And by no means am I criticizing you. I mean, the toll lanes are here. They're here, and we appreciate the fact people's willing to invest to do things our state can't afford to. But I'm just congratulate you on the deal you made. You've done a great job. I mean,
Before them.
Yeah.
Before them. Renee?
Well, I think I'll talk more to Ernestine than I will to anybody else in the room. Your points about why people aren't using them. I hear that every other day when my husband is coming home from work and he uses 77 to get to and from work. We are a $65,000 a year income household. We can't afford the toll lanes. And then the road that the neighborhoods that road travels through average $35,000 a year. So this pricing structure penalizes the poorest residents of Mecklenburg County. And that to me is enough data for us to understand why more people aren't using them.
John?
I don't want the tone or of my questions to insinuate that I'm necessarily against managed lanes. I think I agree with Mr. Rosenberg. They may be unnecessarily, I mean, they may be necessary going forward. I'd also like to say that I'm 60 years old and I'm not the oldest man in this room. So when we talk about, oh my gosh, it's all the way back in the olden times of 2010. It's not like the days of Lincoln. It was 2010. I lived here. I've been here for 50 years before that. So, you know, we all know that have lived here what a miserable experience, quite frankly, dealing with Centra and this whole issue was on the north end. It wasn't negotiated well. There was a lot of community outcry, and I lived here during all that, and that puts you guys kind of in a bad light. And it probably happened before you came on board, but for those of you that don't know, Google it. There was a lot of angst. There was a lot of anger. I do think they negotiated a a hell of a contract for them. I don't think it's great for the taxpayers in North Carolina. I'd like to ask Mr. Cooksey how much it costs to travel end to end on the Monroe Expressway. And this is run by the Turnpike Authority.
Mayor Higdon, I regret that I don't have that particular figure in my head at the moment. But I would note that it's a completely different facility.
Oh, absolutely.
Rarely told express lane. It is not priced to manage congestion. It's priced to pay back the cost of the construction.
Well, but the last number I heard is it's $2 or $3 to drive end to end. So we're being asked to pay a premium price for supposedly or hopefully a premium product. And I would just like to ask that, you know, if this is a public-private partnership, let's work as partners and be transparent. Again, I find, you know, the number of cars that use a facility being a trade secret ridiculous. I mean, that should be known by us. We're your partner if we're going to work together. So I guess I'll leave it at that. But I mean, this didn't all happen a long time ago. For those of you that aren't familiar, just Google Centra and the North I-77 lanes, and you'll see what happened in 2010, and it wasn't pretty.
Thank you. Ed, any final?
I'm good. I would just emphasize again, a toll lane and a managed lane structure are just very different. Everybody pays in the toll lanes. So therefore, comparing the prices is apples and orange. Otherwise, I think I've made my position clear. Thank you.
All right, great. Chuck?
Once again, David, Rob, and your entire team, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and all the effort that you put into providing these answers to us. Just a few clarifications. Mr. Tilley, they actually take care of the entire road from fence to fence. So it's not just the managed lanes. They're taking care of all the GP lanes as well. That's their responsibility.
Yes, sir, but they're not taking care of those lanes off the toll money. They're getting paid by the state to do that as a contracted work on that.
I'm not going to debate you about that, but they're responsible for the entire road. So, and also, I also want to speak something favorably about the way you've kept the contract. It's not static. It continues to be dynamic because you are making changes. You're allowing trailers in, which originally were not part of the contract. And so I do think it's an opportunity so conversations can continue, perhaps HOV too, and it does come with a price because we talked about it on other facilities in the state. But I do appreciate you being here, the willingness to continue to talk about things and make it a dynamic contract that can have some flexibility in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee?
Thank you. I too would like to sincerely thank you for being here and all the time and preparation that has preceded it from your entire team. You know, prior to this conversation, this process, I don't think there's been any meaningful opportunity for question and answer in public for the public to hear. It's really important. I don't like a lot of what I heard. And that can inform what we do going forward. But having the conversation, even not liking a lot of what I heard, I'm still very grateful that it occurred. I think we owe it to the public. I think you owe it to the public, even though it wasn't in your contract. And I'm glad that you saw that and that you came, and I truly do appreciate it.
Rusty?
Yeah, so I want to address the traffic mitigation issue. I do drive a Lexus. My wife drives a Lexus, and we spend $325 a month driving in the toll lanes. I get on at exit 30 as the Mayor Davidson, and I will invite you any time of the day or night until right now to drive that corridor southbound in the morning or northbound in the afternoon. And for me, from exit 30 to exit 19, which is the 485 interchange, it's a parking lot. So I have no recourse but to drive in the toll lanes. It's my choice. But to drive in the toll lanes for 60% of the corridor till they end at exit 11. I've driven late to get here before during rush hour for a meeting, and it cost me $24 to drive here. I can afford that, but I shouldn't have to. My question would be if these lanes were designed to mitigate traffic, has the model been looked at? Has the experiment been done that, and it might not be a flat fee, but you know, when I'm paying $4.65 to drive one section and there's 4 cars and there's a parking lot beside me, what instead of, if it's $4.65, what if it's $1.50? How many of those cars jump over that are sitting in the parking lot at that time? And it still works out to the same amount of revenue that you're generating. I think that's a lot of the angst that people have about driving or not driving in the toll lanes. I mean, I left early today. I came down on 21 and it was wonderful. But if it were priced accordingly, where more people could choose to drive in that lane if they chose to, would that really be a true traffic mitigator is my question. And I got one more before you answer, and I don't know who's this directed at. There was talk during this whole contract about hardened shoulders up our way, where we were going to, in the general purpose lanes during heavy flow, we would be able to drive in the on the side of the interstate. Did that just evaporate? That, Brett, that might be for you. I'm not sure, but
Looks like a mix there. So Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, to answer the questions about the hardened shoulders first. No, that project hasn't evaporated, but has required us to do a great deal of traffic analysis to determine the real impacts of that. We have some preliminary information, but felt like we needed to update that and look at it a little bit harder. To hopeful that we'll have some more information next year on that, springtime at least, to determine what the right move there is.
okay. And on my other question, before I get an answer, I just want to thank all of y'all for being here, the whole team. It's important to have this dialogue because we've not. I mean, 2010, I was on a bridge at exit 28 with a sign. So things change and things still remain the same. So but I do use the product. I will say that the product works for me. It should work for more people.
Was there a question in that? Okay, very good. Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to pick up on what Chuck said. We amend contracts at DOT all the time. So if there's something that benefits both sides, please bring it forward. We could look at amending it. The other thing is I'm quite intrigued about 62 miles an hour being the average speed. I'd like to know who then is requiring NC Highway Patrol to pull me over all the time at overtime rates, whoever's paying for that. So that's confusing to me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There's a reason for that, but I won't go there. So Dale.
It's that car you drive.
I want to thank you all also coming. I'm just thinking when we start negotiating and looking at bringing the 77 toll lanes on and through Charlotte, we need to look at moving vehicles more than the speed of moving, getting vehicles. We've got to get cars through the town. That's all.
Craig.
No questions. Appreciate you being here. Come to the belly of the beast. It's always a lot of fun. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And very much so. I'd like to thank you for being here and taking the arrows, which is normally reserved for Brett, but you know, you can do that. But we appreciate you and all your support team as well to come over and give us stuff. I think again, for us, it was a great learning exercise. We know that there's some frustrations from some time back, and it's not that far back, but you know, some of us weren't here at that time, or at least weren't involved in it as much as like John was or something. But I do appreciate that you came here, and part of this exercise was to learn what happens next for you guys and for us. So we had talked about very candidly and open, you know, at some time we could be faced with having a decision be made and say, if your organization was, we'll call it the last man standing, then what does our agreement look like? And I think that, you know, the willingness to not only show up, but maybe potential if your organization is and would be in that scenario specifically a successful end provider, then there may be some discussions about, we'll call it the first deal, that might affect the second deal, if it would. Or how would it affect if you guys would stay just on I-77 North and another provider did I-77 South. So I think, from the standpoint, Lee's point, as well as a learning exercise. And now we know a lot more than we did before. And I think that's a credit to all of you in the room for putting the time and effort and energy for the Q&A stuff. You guys showing up and again, taking our arrows a little bit. I appreciate that. And I just want to express that to all of you, quite frankly. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I don't overstep my bounds here, and I don't get fired for saying this, but I really do appreciate this. Please bear in mind that this is a work in progress. Really, the first 2 years that we operated, we're operating during the COVID pandemic. We're really now just getting up to speed. And this is an operation in which we are keen on listening to people like you, listening to our neighbors, listening to our stakeholders, trying to figure out what works. I-77 Mobility Partners runs I-77 Express, which is a choice. We believe that we're providing congestion relief for all, not just those who are choosing to use the express lanes. Now, that may not be resonating with all of you, but there are ways in which we can certainly maneuver strategically to make changes that will satisfy our stakeholders, our partners, our neighbors. We are in this community for the long haul, and we want to let you know that we hear everything that you're saying, not just the positive, but the criticisms. And we're taking this into account, and we are indeed trying to make changes. For example, the I-77 tolling equity program, for example, the work that we're doing with traditional African American neighborhoods, for example, the innovations that we're putting on the roadway. We want to be a good corporate citizen for the region, and we want to be seen as an asset, both economically and socially, for the area. So everything you've said here, we are absorbing. We'll go home, we'll think about it, and we'll try to satisfy you all, the greatest critics included, so that when we have a further conversation, you see us as being responsive. So thank you so much for the input.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Chair Papas, and every member of the board. As I said before, I just reiterate my words. Yeah, I think this has been a great opportunity for us to, to discuss a little bit about what we think are the facts and benefits that this project is bringing to the community. So I think it has been a great opportunity, and we are delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome. And then again, I want everybody to remember that the relationship exists between the two entities, NCDOT, and that we are granted some input to it, which is probably beneficial, and certainly maybe it didn't happen before. So this body right here, again, is going to contribute to the dialogue that anybody who NCDOT is considering going forward, we're going to have at least a voice at the table. So again, great exercise. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. All right, we'll go drop down to Mr. Burke. Upcoming agenda items.
Based upon one of the actions during the consent agenda, the board has chosen to cancel the December 20th CRTPO board meeting. So the next CRTPO board meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 17th. And that agenda is anticipated to include the following items: the election of officers, and then information reports on the FY25 UPWP, and then the performance-based planning safety targets. And I have just a couple of quick announcements. Member jurisdictions with CRTPO board delegates and alternates that are not returning in 2024 are encouraged to have replacements named as soon as possible after they have been appointed. Municipal managers, clerks, or TCC members are encouraged to contact me as soon as the new delegates or alternates are known, so that information regarding the 2024 board meeting schedule and orientation can be provided. Out of the 44 voting members, 8 are not returning in 2024, at least based upon our analysis. And then an update on the Beyond 77 website. Staff has spent the last month refreshing the visual and content elements of our Beyond 77 web pages on our CRTPO website. These changes come as we prepare to transition into the Beyond 77 coalition while ensuring the activities and deliverables of the previous study and mobilization phases are accessible and maintained. The new landing page for all Beyond 77 related content may be accessed at crtpo.org/Beyond 77. And then to save the dates, the 2024 CRTPO orientation will be held on Thursday, January 11th from 4 to 7 p.m. here in 267. That event is designed for returning board members to get additional education on upcoming initiatives in 2024, but also some of the newer board members that are coming for the first time. And dinner will be served that night. And then the last save the date is a 2024 joint MPO roundtable with the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO and the CRTPO board. That is Thursday, February 29th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And we're still working on a location. So those are all the announcements that I have.
All right, and the one that I have, some people know this, some people may not though, but I will not be able to return to this board next time around. Didn't get a successful run at my reelection. So just want to say thank you for all of you guys who have allowed me to serve with you. And I think that we've opened up a lot of communications. I think it was exemplified tonight, be able to have some dialogue that wasn't before, but I just want to say thank you for my 4 years being in here and the 2 years that I was able to help guide and shape some of the policies and help shape some of the direction where we're going. So I just want to say thank you all very much for having me.
Mayor Pappas. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
You want?
Mr. Chair, a couple of comments.
Sure.
First, on behalf of the Board of Transportation and the Secretary who I met with this morning, we want to thank you for the efforts that you put out.
You're welcome.
In front of everybody's seat is an article on the $45 million we were able to achieve from the legislature directly to solve the #1 congested interstate interchange in North Carolina, which is 45 and 85. That money's already been transferred to the department, and you can ask Brett when it'll be built, because I ask him daily.
Those arrows look very warm right now, Brad. So
the other thing is an update on SB 512. This is the Senate bill that changes control of the Board of DOT. That was passed by the legislature. It was then vetoed by the governor. The veto was overridden by the legislature. It went to court. The governor was able to obtain a restraining order. It'll go before a 3-judge panel, probably sometime in January, and then the Supreme Court, certainly before June. Just to get an update. Thank you.
very good. Didn't mean to steal your thunder on that, Stephen. So great work. So anyway, I'll ask go around other comments. Do we have Craig?
This too is my last meeting. Sad to leave you all. I've learned a lot. I've greatly enjoyed most of it. Still haven't got my hands around all those acronyms, probably never will. But I would like to introduce, I have in the audience, Mayor-elect Jim Bell. Jim is, will be taking my place. So I feel that I'm leaving here with a follow-up in good hands. So again, happy holidays, best wishes, Merry Christmas to all of you all, and Godspeed for the coming years. And fix my roads, would you please?
Working on it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right. Anybody else? All right. For the good of the group, I think it's been a good meeting. So again, thank you very much. Unless there's any other comments around the horn, now I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
10 people at once. So moved.
Second.
Yay. We're good. Good night, everybody.
The one resolution.